How you doing, guys? Probably won't get a lot of people on today because it's Memorial Weekend. But yeah. Just going to do a quick stream. It's not going to be very long. Briefly go over Bitcoin. Just want to talk a little bit about Rheumatic Finance as well. And then just a look ahead for the rest of the year. See how we get on. So while I'm waiting for you all to show up, I'm going to give it a few minutes and then we'll get started. Just let me know if you can hear me. Just type something in the chat. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Can you guys hear me all right? I'm just going to go ahead on the premise that everybody can hear me. I think you can. So look, let's talk about Bitcoin briefly. And then I'll talk about Rheumatic Finance. And then I will talk about, the remainder of this year and what that could potentially look like, what we can do with that, information. So, as I said this morning, we're getting a little bit of green today, right? So, this weekend produced pretty much nothing. Price was continuing to go sideways on Bitcoin as it has been doing for some time. And then we get this little bit of an impulse, right? Which it's not amazing, but at least it gets the markets moving again. So what do we do with this information? I mean, do we just assume that this is it? This is the turning point. Obviously, we hear a lot of this all the time. People are saying that that's the case. People are saying that there's going to be some huge move. Even to the point where people are actually quoting tweets from Elon Musk saying that, this picture that he posted facing us now instead of facing away from us. And I mean, effectively, people are trying to, they're looking into everything, including the stars and the moon and whatnot, to try to figure out whether this is actually going to be the turning point for Bitcoin. Is it going to start to run higher? But when we take a step back from all of this and we just focus on the markets themselves, we take a look at, say, the weekly chart. Okay, this may very well explode to the upside and off it goes. All right, and we'll use this chart. Right, that may be the case, but you have to be realistic. You have to look at the markets in a calm and objective way. Even if we get a little bit of a rally, until it gets through this key level, it's unlikely that that rally is going to be a decent one and that it's going to continue. It's very likely that it hits that level and turns and starts to come back down to the downside, because this entire structure of price is still showing that it wants to come down here, 20,000 sub 20,000. All right. So we have to be a little bit careful. We've got to be very mindful, of positioning ourselves in places where we don't really need to be. All right. And I'm still not getting any comments. I'm gonna throw a comment out there just to see if you guys can see that. So we've got to be cautious. We've got to be careful. All right. Patience is absolutely key. All right. Patience is absolutely key. It's very easy to get drawn into things, before they happen. Nice one, Lee. Thanks, man. It's very easy to get drawn into things, when there's actually nothing happening. So be careful, be cautious. Don't throw money into the market unless the market proves to you, shut up, unless the market proves to you that it really wants to go. All right. You're not going to miss the move. People have this fear of missing the move. If Bitcoin rips to the upside and it gets back above 48,000 and starts to hold up here, all right, you think about what that actually means. Yeah. For those of you who are new to crypto, new to trading, don't have any idea really what's going on, really think about what I'm going to talk about for a second. If Bitcoin does this, okay, so it starts to do this and it bounces and it does this and maybe it goes like this and it starts to really go, gets back above 48,000, stabilizes, and then it's maybe sitting here. Really think about what that actually means for price. Yeah. It's basically come all the way down, tag that low, takes it out, starts to reverse, gets for a key level, breaks 48,000, okay, which is a significant swing point because we see a really nice move away from that level. And now we're sitting here, close to an all-time high. That whole scenario right there is very possible, yeah, that we end up for that next leg up here, right? When you really start to zoom out, oh, sorry, guys. When you really start to zoom out and you start to look at the big picture, right? That makes more sense. So if you're engaging here at 48,000, yeah, you've got all of this movement potentially that price could want to go into, and that's more than enough. More than enough. You don't need to get it down here. Yeah. People always assume that you have to get the absolute low. You don't have to get the absolute low. This is safer. But the problem is most traders or investors don't want to wait for this to happen because they feel like they're going to miss out. They're going to miss something. So again, I mean, you guys know that I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to try to give, a little bit of perspective and context, in the markets. So yeah. So that's Bitcoin. I'm predominantly focused on Bitcoin at the moment because we're moving. There's nothing really else going to happen. So we just have to be patient and kind of wait. The other thing I want to talk about is Rheumatic Finance. As you guys, I'm sure you know by now, heading up the, the offering over there. We are in the process of continuing to test this contract, which is extremely complex. We've said this many times. And I just want to quickly reiterate as well, if you don't hear anything from us at the moment, it's because there's nothing, to say, there's nothing to discuss. Obviously, once we, have a launch date, the launch pad's up and running and everything else, I say launch pads, but yeah, once we have the launch pad up and running, things will be announced. There'll be plenty of time to engage. There'll be plenty of time to know what's going on. We'll keep everybody abreast of all of that. So there's absolutely no issues. There's no worry there. If you want to stay abreast of everything that's happening, the link to the RFTX Discord is in the link, is in the description below. So make sure that you're in there. You don't have to engage, but if you're in there, at least, the at everybody announcements, you will see them in the announcement channel, as and when we move forward with everything. So don't worry, you're not going to miss anything. And now I just want to quickly take a step back away from the charts for a second. And I just want to talk about the end of the year. All right. So what does the end of the year look like for us as investors, as cryptocurrency traders? Sorry, guys, as cryptocurrency traders, all right? People who want to engage, people who want to find something in this market that makes sense, all right? It's very easy to go in and out of things, to buy things, just for the sake of doing it, to jump into projects for the sake of jumping into projects. But what does that mean for us at the end of the year? We're going through this kind of period in time where inflation's obviously going through the roof. There are many scenarios that could unfold. We could have another, problem that arises out of nowhere. Countries around the world are very agitated. Global economies are breaking down. And it's very easy to look at all of that and think, well, do you know what? We're probably going to end up in maybe a depression, for example, or a really bad recession, right? So as investors, how do you position yourself for a situation like that? What do you do with that information? You look across the board, there's hundreds of videos out there now promoting doom and gloom and everything's horrible and, God help us all, right? But I think if we take a step back and we just try to look at things objectively and say, right, we know things are pretty poor. We know things are ultimately or could potentially be worse. Obviously, there's always that to factor in. Things could always be worse, but we're trying to find a way to secure our future, right? We're trying to find a way to make sure that we position ourselves so in a year, 2 year, 5 years down the line, one to five, right? 5 years down the line, where we can look back and say we made some really good decisions and we've ended up in a situation where we've got some decent income coming in. We've had some really good growth from the investments that we've made, and we're looking strong, right? And to be able to do that requires an immense amount of patience. Not only patience, but an immense amount of education. We have to educate ourselves to get to the point where we feel comfortable engaging in markets like this, which isn't easy to do. Predominantly when you're engaging with markets, right? Let's say we're in a really strong bull run, right? Anybody can make money in a bull run, right? Let's say Bitcoin really starts to go. It's so easy to make money, and it gives you that kind of false sense of you were smart enough to get the low, or you were smart enough to buy into something that's really moving. And you forget that if you look across the board, everything's moving with it, right? So if Bitcoin really goes, all the altcoins go, everything's looking great, predominantly on the Binance Smart Chain, which is where we call our home at the moment. Everything's doing well, everything's pushing, everything's moving. It's very easy to look at that situation and say, wow, check me out, right? I mean, I'm brilliant. I'm a genius. And then what happens is when things don't turn out well, or you end up taking profits early, or you don't maximize the move and so on, you end up getting frustrated because you don't have that foundation, that rock to come back to and say, well, actually, this is normal. I've seen this before. I have the experience and so on. So I need to be able to adjust for these things as I'm moving forward. Without that experience, without that education, without that understanding, it's very easy to fall prey to things that happen like that and end up missing out on, for example, one of the greatest bull runs, in the history of trading, which may very well be the case. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but at some point, I think this, and I've said this before, will predominantly be one of the greatest opportunities to get into investing that we've seen in our lifetime, at least. I think this is probably going to be, I don't want to say the last one, but I think it's probably going to be the last major one, right? So education is absolutely key. I can tell you from my own personal understanding, I have money set aside and I'm waiting, right? So I'll just kind of go through a really quick scenario with you. I've got money set aside and I'm waiting to get into the markets, right? I've already got a portfolio. I've already got things that I'm already in, right? But if I just take some of the money that I've got ready to invest, right, and I just go and plow it all into, just for argument's sake, 2 reflection tokens, 1 meme coin, a little bit in Bitcoin, some in Ethereum, maybe, just for argument's sake, add to my CHSB. How is that going to help? Yeah. Is that planned out? Is it focused? Am I really looking into things and making sure, right, that wherever I'm putting this money makes sense? Probably not. But if I look at the situation and I say, right, I'm really waiting for price to get back above 48,000, up here, so I can really start to assess what's going on. And there will be telltale signs along the way as price continues to go up. So let's say it goes from here. If price starts to go up, and let's say it gets up to here, then it starts to stabilize around 36, 37, then it goes again and it gets around to the 40s. We're starting to see confirmation that price may want to challenge that 48,000 swing point, right? So it's not like we have to absolutely just wait for that one moment in time and nothing else. But we look for opportunities along the way to give us an indication, right, that may indeed be the case. And if it is, you can slowly start to ease your way into the marketplace, right? So patience is absolutely key. Stay on top of things. Make sure that you're educating yourselves. Make sure that you are not throwing everything into one place. We hear the word diversification quite a lot. I've never really been a fan of diversification in the sense of using it spreading like constantly. But I do think it's important to put your money in multiple different places instead of just one or two places. And what I mean by that is not, let's say, reflection tokens, right, on the Binance Smart Chain. Not put all of your money into 15 different reflection tokens in one sector, because that's not going to help you. If Binance isn't doing well, predominantly most reflection tokens aren't going to do well either. And if the general market is down, then pretty much every single one of your investments are going to be down as well. Again, this is absolutely key, right? What I'm talking about is making sure that you diversify into different asset classes, into different markets. So, for example, if Bitcoin is stabilizing right now and maybe gold is doing okay and starting to go back up, buy some physical gold. You may not, I mean, I've had this conversation with many people who said to me, oh, but I don't have enough money to buy physical gold. That's cool, man. Just buy a gram, save up and buy just 1 gram of gold. You'd be surprised what 1 gram of gold may be worth in a couple of years' time, right? So, there's always a way to safely engage in the markets, and there's always a way, to look a year ahead and say, where am I going to be? What is my investment portfolio going to look like? Am I going to be better off? Is things just going to be predominantly the same, or am I going to be in a position where I can look at that and say, I made a bunch of mistakes and I've basically lost all of my money? So we have to be, like I said, educated. We've got to have an absolute plan the next, say, 6 or 7 months out to the end of the year. What does that look like? Check your portfolios, keep an eye on the markets, keep on an even keel. Don't engage, let your emotions get the best of you, and take the extra 2 or 3 days if you have to. If you see something you're like, I really like this project, this is really good, take a few days. Take a few days to look into it, break it down, read the white papers, the pitch decks, go through the entire project piece by piece by piece, and start to project forward. What does that look like? How does that look going forward in terms of my portfolio? If this goes wrong, what does that look like? If this doesn't work, what does that look like? If it kind of half works, what does that look like? And if it works really well, what does that look like? Yeah. And then once you do this, it gives you a much better indication of how to plan for this, this next few months, and then going into the remainder of the year. All right. So it was going to be a quick stream. I know obviously there's not a lot of people around because of the Memorial Day weekend. So I just wanted to kind of jump on. I want to keep the schedule going around this sort of time. This is predominantly going to be the time that I'm on most days. So I'll be doing the live sessions during this time. US equities open, obviously we'll be talking about that. And then it will be much more refined leading up to certain things. There'll be topics that we're going to be discussing, and obviously towards the end I'll leave a section to do Q&A, and then we can kind of go back to answering questions once I've gone through all of that information. So they're going to be nice and refined, these live sessions. So with all of that said, I mean, I don't mind hanging around for another couple of minutes just to see if anybody has any questions. I know there's there's not a lot of people here, but if anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy to to stick around for a few minutes and answer those. And if not, then I will wish you all a great day. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to go off camera for a few moments. I'm going to wait to see if anybody has any questions, and we'll take it from there. Yeah, no problem, Lee. You're welcome, mate. You're welcome, John. No problem, man. Welcome, Tim. What we'll do, I'll just call it here, guys, and I'll let everybody just get back to their day. I know it's still quite early over in the States, so I'll say enjoy, obviously, your Memorial Day weekend. Spend time with your family, obviously. Remember who you need to remember. And I think What time is it now? I may have yeah, no worries, Craig. What's the question here? It feels like a recession is here at least. Yeah, I agree, Sergio, to be honest. I agree. Just to quickly visit this. I agree, actually. It doesn't feel right. This rally doesn't feel right. Um, I've got, at least from my experience, I've spent quite a lot of time in the markets, obviously, and some things just don't, some things aren't adding up. I'm looking at these weekly and monthly time frames, kind of looking at a bit of information across the board, and it just doesn't feel like this has got any weight to it. But what it's doing is it's slowing down the market, so it's giving people time to think, which is good. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep a track of these things. I'm going to be on every day, guys, as much as I can. I'm going to try to get on every day so we can stay on top of these markets, right? Because what I want to show you, I want to show you the turn when it happens. I want to be able to point to it and say, this is confirmation. This is what I'm predominantly looking for when I'm looking to, to enter into the market or make a decision, right? And in doing so, it's going to give you guys a much better and clearer understanding of global macroeconomics, how, being able to understand price and study charts in this way isn't about patterns and pattern recognition. It's about understanding the underlying psychology that happens in the market, and when we look at all of these factors in countries, their economies, and you look at some of the numbers, we can point at it and say, this is starting to make a little bit of sense. What do we do with this information? Then we can kind of assess and kind of break it down. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, because it's Memorial Day weekend, and I don't want to keep people, for too long, but I wanted to keep the schedule going. So expect me on tomorrow. I'll try and get another video out later. If, in fact, you know what, if there's anything to talk about in terms of market movement, because, guys, I'm predominantly, a chart guy. And for those of you who've been around long enough know that, that's all I need really. I'm very good at this. I'm very good at what I do in terms of charting and reading price and stuff. So if I see something of significance, I'll jump back on and I'll do a quick video. If not, then I will catch up with, I'll catch up with all of you in the usual places, Discord and whatnot. And I hope everyone has an absolutely awesome day. All right, guys, take care and I'll speak to you soon.